Hi and welcome to section 2. Okay, so in this section we're going to be covering the verse and the chorus. There's also a tempo change. We're down to 84 beats per minute from 126. At the end of the last section, the intro, there is a vocal cue that's on the original track. We don't have any vocals on the play-along tracks, so we've used a hi-hat sound. That will count you in. There's 4 hi-hats on the last half of the last bar of the last section that'll cue into this section. So listen out for those. So we'll get started on the main riff. So this is the riff that's used for sort of like almost like a pre-verse. It does change slightly for when he starts singing over the actual verse. So the riff goes like this. Alright, so if we're going to count through this using the counting system that you've probably seen other parts of the website, the 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and it'll sound like this. 1 and the 2E and the 3 and 4E and 1 and the 2E and the 3 and 4E and... Okay, so I'll play a little bit slow for you. 1 and the 2E and the 3 and 4E and 1 and the 2E and the 3 and 4E and... Okay, so I'm going to break it down a little bit into one beat, little chunks. So the first beat will sound like this. So the first strum here on the open D and A strings, it's a D5 power chord, that's a quaver in length. And then you've got a hammer on from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret on the A string. And they're semiquavers. So if you're going to count in numbers, if we break down into the beats but in numbers, so you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the whole bar. It'll sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. In the other counting system, it would be 1 and. So the next beat would have the mutes. So it starts off with a couple of mutes, left-hand mutes. You want to just rest your left hand on the strings, like a little bit like you did with the staccato notes. When you just rested your fingers on there, you want to do exactly the same thing. Just stop the strings from ringing out while you still strum them with your right hand, your picking hand. Just gets that muted sound. So you're going to go. That's the next beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, and again this is a little hammer on here. So after the mutes, I'm actually just muting the A string, by the way. It's where I left off. So after the first beat, that's the A string on the 5th fret is where my finger was last. So I've sort of just relaxed that, rested it on there, and played the A string a couple of times for those mutes. You can do bigger mutes if you prefer. I just find it a lot easier, especially at the speed at which you go at a full tempo. So after that, there's a hammer on from 3rd fret to 4th fret on the D string. Together those 2 beats. Okay, the 3rd beat is just a couple of quavers. You go straight to the 5th fret on the A string, and then go to the open D and A strings, the lowest 2. So you got counting wise would be 1, 2, 3, 4, or in the 3rd beat would be 3 and. So up to there we'll go. Okay, the last beat is just a hammer on from the E power chord here, where you're going to play, if you can bar across the lowest 2 strings here on the 2nd fret, and then hammer on the same 2 strings with your 2nd finger on the 3rd fret, so you got. So you strum down once, and then hammer on with your second finger, and then play the second fret again, but strum that one. Okay, and the counting for that would be 4 E and, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that full bar will go sound like this. Picking wise, I'm strumming down for the first strum, down again for the hammer on there, and for this next bit I'm strumming down for this hammer on the D string, upstroke on the 5th fret A string, and then the open strings downstroke, and again down here, hammer and down again. So the only upstroke I'm doing is on the 5th fret A string for that quick note after the hammer on. So of course when you play the mutes, alternate pick as well, so they'll be down up. So yeah, an extra upstroke in there. So you're going down, down, hammer, down, up for the mutes, down, hammer, up on the A string, down on the open strings, down, hammer, down. I hope that helps. So obviously if you find a different way of strumming more comfortable for you, feel free to do that. But when you do play through this, the downstrokes really help to get that, I call it aggression, but like that attack on the guitar strings, especially with distortion as well. So in the next part in the verse where it starts singing, the vocals come in, you play the same riff but we're going to palm mute it. So again, there are lessons on this on the site if you want to check it out in more detail, but briefly you're just going to put the palm of your hand, the side of your hand here, just sort of the side of your part, the fleshy part, just over the end of the strings here as you can sort of go over the bridge, and it sort of just mutes the strings slightly, but you can still hear the pitch of the notes. So instead of being open, you get that kind of muted, chunky kind of sound. And especially with distortion, it's a bit more obvious, a bit more contrast in the sounds between open and palm muted with distortion. So I've popped that on, so you can hear the difference. Open, palm muted, and you're probably familiar with the sound anyway, from listening to this kind of music. Okay, so here's just a quick example of hearing the contrast between the palm muted section for the verse and the open riff. So you can really hear the difference there. Okay, so while you're palm muting for the verse, if you want to lighten the palm mute or lift your hand up a little bit for some of the hammer-ons, you feel free just to add a bit of variety in there so it sounds a little bit like this. Okay, so you can play around with that, get a good sound. So long as sort of your volume level overall is dropped for the verse while the vocals come in, it's quite important to get that contrast of volume levels between the main riff where you played it open and also palm muted for the verse. So you play this 8 times, this riff for the verse. The very last part, very last part of the last bar is you do lift off, you do play it open. That leads into the chorus then. So that last bar will go like this. Then you go into the chorus riff.